A jury has found two luxury real estate agents and their brother guilty of sex trafficking. Prosecutors accused the three Alexander brothers of using their money and influence to lure women into luxury trips and parties where they would drug, assault, and rape women for more than a decade. The brothers' attorneys argue in court that while the brothers' behavior could be seen as crude or inappropriate, they did not commit a federal crime. And we see Stephen Romo and Misty Maris joining us now on this. Stephen, the brothers face up to life in prison. Talk about what we saw over the course of this trial. Bring us all up to date.
Yeah, Tom, this trial going on for more than a month, and the allegations from these 11 accusers we heard from, they were hard to listen to. The brothers, of course, denying these accusations that they drugged and raped these women and girls. Two of the women said that they felt paralyzed before they were assaulted by Orrin and Alon Alexander. Prosecutors also said Orrin Alexander videotaped himself with an incapacitated 17-year-old girl back in 2009. That led to the charge of exploitation of a minor. The brothers were accused of using their wealth and status to lure these women in. And prosecutors say they used a playbook of repeated tactics with the women and girls over the course of years. Now, the defense tried to undermine that, saying that the sex was consensual and that prosecutors were really trying to criminalize dating. The brothers' attorneys also kind of admitted that the men were womanizers, but said that it's not criminal. The defense team had asked the jurors in closing to not just convict these men because they did not like their lifestyle, saying that it wasn't a crime. But the jurors, they didn't agree. They sided with the prosecution. Yeah. We actually have a statement from the prosecution that we just got in saying this verdict cannot undo the effects of heinous abuse the Alexanders' many victims endured, but it does send a message. New Yorkers want to bring an end to sex trafficking in all our communities.
Now, this is a wild case. I can never understand why some grown people or some grown men have this thing for like sleeping with drugged or unconscious women. What are we doing? There are some sick freaks in this world. And women have to be careful about who they spend their time with. You got these rich, powerful men come out, and we've done with this with the file. But we got these rich, powerful men who will fly you out. You be on a yacht, on a boat, and then next thing you know, you tipsy in the bed, and you don't even know what happened to you. But let's keep going into this.
Tom?
Misty, what do you think was the key moment here or testimony in this trial that led to this verdict, and how severe do you think the sentence is likely to be?
Tom, so as Stephen laid out, there were 11 victims who testified, two who were underage at the time that they were allegedly raped by the Alexander brothers. And that testimony was very, very impactful. It showed a pattern of conduct, similarities between the stories of those victims who took the stand. But in addition to that, there was an electronic footprint that was incredibly difficult for the defense to contest. There were messages between the brothers, texts and emails, and a blog which set out what was called a playbook and a section that said, "It's not rape if," listing all of these things that the Alexander brothers were accused of doing and ultimately convicted of. So I do believe that led to the conviction. As far as penalty, there's a 15-year mandatory minimum for the sex trafficking conviction. The judge can tack on more. They face up to life. Each brother will be looked at individually, and they will be able to submit pre-sentencing reports in July, and ultimately they'll be sentenced in August. They'll be looking at the pattern of the crime, the nature of the crime, but also taking into account that they don't have a criminal history.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking.
There are some truly sick freaks in this world, y'all. Let's go over to this next video and see if they tell us any more details.
A federal jury has found three brothers, including two who were prominent real estate brokers in the U.S., guilty on all counts in their sex trafficking trial. Now, the jury reached a verdict last night in the case against the Alexander brothers. The trial lasted 4 weeks and included testimony from women who say the brothers sexually assaulted them. Now, the brothers were accused of teaming up to drug, assault, and traffic women for more than a decade. CBS News national investigative correspondent Tom Hansen joins us. Appreciate you being.
It's sad to think that this goes on for a decade before it even gets stopped. So many abuse people. And there's probably people who they don't even mention who haven't even come forward, who just wanted to forget about the night.
On set.
Good to be here.
So just kind of, background of who these brothers are, what were the charges they were convicted of?
Yeah, well, chances are you might have seen them on social media at one point because they had a huge social media presence. So these are three brothers. You have Oren, Tal, and Alon Alexander. Oren and Tal were some of the most successful, highest earning real estate brokers in the entire country. And Tal worked for the family owned security firm. So Alon worked for the family owned security firm. Oren and Tal, they were rubbing elbows with the ultra wealthy, the elite, the upper crust of society here. And what went down is 11 witnesses delivered what the prosecution says was crushing examples of guilt. These 11 women accused the brothers of sexually assaulting them, sometimes drugging them, then assaulting them, and even recording them without their consent. So some really disturbing allegations here. Now, the jury was presented a mountain of evidence in this case, much of it a digital footprint. We're talking emails, text messages, and even a blog, which prosecutors pointed to as a playbook. The blog even had a section that was titled, "It's Not Rape If." Now, the defense tried
Straight to jail
to dismiss some of this testimony. They said that a lot of these women were lovers scorned, that they were using this for personal gain. But the prosecution simply put, these women have no reason to lie. I should also note that none of the brothers testified in this case. So here are the convictions that actually went down yesterday in a Manhattan court. The jury found Tal, Oren, and Alon guilty of sex trafficking charges, Tal and Alon guilty of sex trafficking a minor, and Oren and Alon guilty of sexual abuse. Their sentencing has been scheduled for August. The brothers could face life behind bars, so some serious charges here.
So thankfully for these women, these men have been brought to justice, but how did it go on for so long?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. This was something that was rumored to be whispered about in social circles amongst the elite of the elite,
yeah,
correct?
Right.
And so this was kind of the worst kept secret that these brothers were conducting themselves in this way, but they weren't really doing much to hide it either by posting on the blog posts, having this digital footprint, these text messages back and forth, basically touting their escapades, touting their what we now know as crimes, convicted crimes in this case. And, this is really just the opening salvo or the first chapter, if you will, in a slew of court cases that they are facing. So they are also facing in the state of Florida criminal charges. Oren faces 3 separate counts of sexual battery in Florida. His twin Alon faces 1 count there as well. They also have civil suits and defamation suits that they are facing. So really just the first chapter in a laundry list of court cases that they're facing.
Oh yeah, they gonna get life in prison, or they should. At least that's my thinking. But why is it? To me, it feels like more and more stuff is coming out about these rich and powerful men who like younger women, who love to do the most awful things. I mean, I guess it's just coming out, but I'm assuming it's been going on for all of our lives. It's just been behind doors, and this stuff wasn't getting out. But let's go over into the AI breakdown just to see if we can find out a little bit more information or tell us anything else about this whole situation. So as we know, on March 9th, a federal jury in Manhattan convicted Tal, Oren, and Aron, how do you say their names, on all counts of high-profile sex trafficking and sexual abuse case. So we know that the brothers were found guilty of operating for a nearly 20-year conspiracy of drug trap. That's supposed to be 10. I don't know if that's 20, if that's right. Now, you always got to check your AI sources. So we got 2 former real estates, and then we got a security officers. All 3 were convicted of every count they faced, totaling 10 counts each. In some reports, and 19 guilty verdicts collectively across various charges. These include sex trafficking of a minor, sexual exploitation of a minor, and aggravated sexual abuse. During the 5-week trial, 11 women, like we talked about, were testified about the horrific experience they had when they were lured on luxury trips. We talked about luxury trips to places like the Hamptons, Aspens, Caribbeans, only to be drugged and with substances like GHB and ketamine before they were assaulted. Prosecutors presenting sickening evidence, including vulgar group messages and video footage that one of the brothers allegedly assaulting a drugged 17-year-old girl. The defense argued that the brothers were merely womanizers and that the encounters were consensual, but the jury rejected these claims. So I hate when people say that using, I guess, when someone gets drunk or gets too high and that's still consensual. No, no, no. Come on now. Now it's different if y'all are both drinking, consenting adults, where you normally drink, you know your limits, you don't forcibly. Y'all both drink, y'all both get super drunk. But if one is overly plowing someone with alcohol and slipping drugs into them, you can't say womenizers. You can't say that. But let's keep going. So we know that the judge has scheduled sentencing for August 6, 2026. All three brothers face up to life in prison. The defense attorney has stated they intend to appeal the verdict. So the two, Alexander, Alon, and Oren, still face separate state-level rape charges in Florida. They need to spend the rest of their lives in jail. It's as simple as that. We have to send a message to any kind of sick freak who likes to do this kind of stuff to girls. We have to. If we don't send a message, they're just going to think they can keep getting away with it. The world, it can be a cold place, but we have to look after this stuff and review it together, y'all. It's a crazy situation. Let me know your thoughts on this situation. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Absolutely tragic, y'all. Absolutely tragic.